It's the line you read on the poster and it's the phrase you hear in the trailer. Yes, the movie tagline is one of the most powerful tools in marketing of a film. But what is the best movie tagline of all time? Well, if that's a question that you lay awake at night wondering, you've come to the right place, because today we will answer that question as we count down from 10 to 1. Hey there, Tim from Screen OD here. I hope you're doing well and thanks so much for tuning in. Hopefully we can make your day even better, especially if you love movies and especially movie taglines, because that's what we're talking about today. Before we get started, a quick reminder that if you do love TV and movies and you haven't already, please subscribe to the channel and you'll get all the best content direct to your feed. Right, that's adverts over. Let's start our list in the best place you can possibly start a list. At the very beginning with number 10, it is Psycho. Alfred Hitchcock, the king of suspense in 1963, made one of the best films of all time. But the good news is, for this list especially, it also had one of the best taglines of all time. If you were going to come up with something to summarize this film, which put almost everyone off having a shower, especially if you're staying in a creepy hotel in America, you'd probably come up with something like this. Yep, it's check in, relax, unpack, take a shower. Now, I think we all know what happens next. On to number 9, right?
Comments are still headed.
What else is on?
Yeah, let's see what else is.
In 1998, The Truman Show starring Jim Carrey became one of the biggest films of the year, and not just because it was a brilliant story about someone being brought up unaware of what was going on around them in a TV studio for everyone's entertainment. No, because it also had a brilliant tagline that summarized quite neatly what was going on. Yep, the tagline was, "On the air, unaware." Now that was a piece of marketing genius.
Good morning! Good morning! Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
We move on to film number 8 on our list and tagline number 8. For those of you who are keeping score and enjoy a mathematical challenge, just note that down as 8. And it's The Social Network, which tells the story of the foundations of Facebook and Mark Zuckerberg's journey to build one of the biggest companies that there has ever been, a tech titan that would change all of our lives. Now, the tagline matches the film, but it must be said it's gone a little bit out of date in recent times, just because Facebook has continued to grow, so it's no one's fault. If anything, they're victims of their own success. But the tagline goes something like this: "You don't get to 500 million friends without making a few enemies." Now, as discussed at the time, Facebook had about 500 million users, so if you think about it, that tagline was absolutely perfect. These days, there's a lot more people using that social network, but it made sense at the time, which is why it's on the list, and actually why it's such an excellent tagline to a film. Great film, great tagline. Let's move on. His whole life was a 1,000,000-to-1 shot. Ah, yes, I meant to say that at the end of the segment, not at the beginning, so I guess I have to say spoiler alert now. No, it's probably a bit late for that as well, isn't it? Okay, it's Rocky at number 7, a film starring Sylvester Stallone that would become a huge hit with audiences across the world and would spawn masses of sequels. I think there are now 8 in total. This is a movie with a tagline that you will remember and a movie that you will remember. So let us move on to number 6.
I mean, look, I'm gonna need it.
Good luck.
Don't leave town.
And number 6 is a film from 1986, which is a very neat segue. That's not the reason it's there at 6, although if I'd thought of that in advance, it might have made it in for that reason. Must do better planning. At 6, it is The Fly, a film that has a tagline that is used all the time by people, and they probably don't even know where it comes from. Be afraid. Be very afraid.
I'm afraid!
Don't be afraid.
No, be afraid. Be very afraid.
Now, Robert De Niro gets a lot of praise for his performance in Taxi Driver, and don't get me wrong, I don't want to detract from that at all, but let's face it, would it have been such a big film if it hadn't have had such a good tagline? Well, you know, probably it would have done. But the tagline is excellent. At number 5, we've got Taxi Driver, and we've got this.
The idea had been growing in my brain for some time. True force. All the king's men cannot put it back together again.
On every street in every city, there's a nobody dreaming of being a somebody. Tell me about it. I mean, it's such a good tagline that it really does resonate with a huge amount of people, and it's such a long tagline that it barely fits on the screen. I'm not sure if it should get extra points for being so long, but it is a memorable one and a memorable film, and that leaves us with nothing to say. But what's number 4? That was a bit much, actually. Wish I hadn't asked now. Okay, at 4 we have one of the greatest sci-fi films ever made. It's Ridley Scott's masterpiece, Alien, which not only is a brilliant film, but the tagline certainly matches. And again, it's one that you probably hear people using and they don't even know why they're using it. It's just one of those things that people say. In space, no one can hear you scream. As true today as it was when it was first said.
Somebody be a jerk their whole life and try to repair their damage?
You probably don't even know my middle name.
That's a trick question. You don't have one.
Helen.
At number 3, we have a quirky indie classic from Wes Anderson, The Royal Tenenbaums, a film that is almost as good as its tagline, which has some excellent wordplay in it. Now, you probably need to know a little bit about the film, which is it's about a family, before I tell you the tagline, but once you know that, and you know that the family is quite dysfunctional, then you'll realise that this tagline is perfect for the film, and that's why it deserves to be at number 3, because family isn't a word, it's a sentence. Do you get it? Like a life sentence. Like your family, like you're sentenced to hang around with your family for your whole life. Do you get it? Yeah, it's very good. It's excellent. And that's why it's at number 3. At number 2 is a film that is regularly considered the best film of all time and is number 1 currently on the IMDb's best films list. But unfortunately, it's only number 2 on our list. So perhaps if they'd put more effort into the tagline, they'd be number 1 on the most important countdown of all time, which is this one. It is, of course, the brilliant film, The Shawshank Redemption.
I guess it comes down to a simple choice, really. Get busy living. Get busy dying.
Fear can hold you prisoner, hope will set you free is a tagline that summarises the journey that Andy Dufresne goes through in The Shawshank Redemption. Now, there's a lot of quotable lines in that film, including things like get busy living or get busy dying, but that is a tagline that really brings the film together, and that's why it's at number 2. But that leaves us with one question left to answer before we go on our merry way. What's number 1?
Now, just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water, the legend continues.
Now, there was a long wait for movie audiences between Jaws and the sequel Jaws 2, and when it finally arrived, it wasn't really quite as good as Jaws, because nothing could be as good as Jaws except perhaps Jurassic Park. But it did have a fantastic tagline, a tagline that, in my opinion, is the best that has ever been committed to a film poster. Think about it, you're on Amity Island, the events of Jaws are behind you, you've had a little bit of time to think about what's happened, and you're starting to build your confidence up. Perhaps you're going to dip your toe back in the sea, you might go for a quick swim, or perhaps jump in a boat and go water skiing. What would summarise all of that? What would summarise what the people of Amity are thinking and what the cinema audience across the world are thinking? Yes, you're going to need a tagline that brings it all together with brilliance. Just when you thought it was safe to go back in the water. Yes, indeed, there's nothing that could have been better than that tagline, and that's why it's number 1 on our list. What do you think? Is that the best film tagline of all time? If not, why not leave what you think it is in the comments below. Right, so that's it. That's your top 10 movie taglines of all time. I hope you enjoyed the video. If you did, why not hit that like button? And if you enjoy what we do here on Screen OD, perhaps consider subscribing to the channel to get the best content direct to your feed. We've got loads of stuff to watch on the Screen OD channel, from TV recommendations on your favourite streaming services to movie lists and curated collections. Go check them all out now. But until next time, we'll see ya.